So things haven't exactly been running smoothly in Sunny Isle recently. We've got cargo trains running straight through the middle of the city, delaying public transport, causing traffic jams, and generally being in places where it shouldn't be. Meanwhile, we're spending hundreds of thousands a month to run an old port we don't even need anymore, and the city's budget has been in the red for a while now. Today, we're heading to the north side of the warehouse district, where we'll build a new cargo terminal that connects into the city's outer rail network. This won't just be a terminal dropped onto the map, we'll build a complete logistics hub, with proper circulation for freight vehicles, a distribution and business centre, and even a toll booth at the entrance. We'll also need to deal with the surrounding landscape, add in drainage canals, increase industrial density in the area, and expand farmland to make full use of the new tiles unlocked. And if all goes to plan, we'll finally stop losing money and turn freight into something that's efficient, reliable, and actually benefits the city. Welcome to Sunny Isle. Hello, and welcome back to the city. Yes, we've got a lot to do today, and it's all about trains, freight, and cargo. And we'll see some major changes to the way that vehicles are traveling through the city and hopefully ease up some of our traffic issues as well. The main area we'll be working in today will be the warehouse district. As you know, we've had this cargo port here for a long time. However, when we built the new port on the other side of the map, this one just isn't that necessary anymore, and it's costing us a lot of money, over 250,000 a month. And when our budget is quite poor at the moment, we're at a deficit of 2.6 million. Any way to save money is a good idea. So what we'll do is we'll move the movement of cargo, which currently travels through the Kaplan neighborhood, through Harbour and Market, past the main train station, and then out of the city along the edge of the coast. So we're still going to use this old line that goes along the coast because we've yet to unlock all the necessary tiles to create the shortcut through the mainland. But instead we'll bring it around the top of the city, past New Bridge, and then we'll create a new cargo terminal hub on the edge of the city at the north side of the warehouse district. And this will also include space for new businesses. We'll have a distribution centre, and since this is quite hilly terrain, we'll also have to think about water management and bring in some details that we've not really thought about in the past about drainage, and bringing in some canals through here and through the farmland. So I'm really looking forward to building this project, expanding our train network, and hopefully resolving some of these issues such as low supplies, traffic jams, and opening up space in the harbour for new development and new projects in the future. Before we start today's project, a quick word about something that's genuinely helped my workflow, and that's the FlexiSpot E7 Pro standing desk. I've been using it while building this episode, and honestly, it's making a bigger difference than I expected. The dual motor system is incredibly smooth, and I can switch between sitting and standing without breaking focus. Whether I'm deep in detailing or just reviewing footage, it helps me keep moving, which makes a real difference in how I feel, both physically and mentally. And when we're building cities, we're always talking about walkability. And it turns out that matters at home too. Having a standing desk makes it easy to stretch your legs, grab a book off the shelf, or give the dog a quick scratch behind the ear. So, if you're anything like me and spend a lot of time at your desk, whether it's building cities or catching up on the latest YouTube builds, it's worth a look. With a major sale happening right now, head over to FlexiSpot and don't forget to use the code YTE7P50 at the checkout for an extra $50 off the E7 Pro. Thanks again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. Okay, we'll start by placing down the train cargo terminal and having a look at this industrial site that we've got on the far side of the city. I think we're going to have to buy a new tile. We could replace some of the existing factories, and I think we will lose a few with this alternative method, but most of these are level 5 and they have a lot of employees and they supply the city with much needed goods. So we're going to place the cargo terminal to the left here, and for that we'll need to buy a new tile. This tile is going to cost us around about $500,000 with a monthly upkeep of 33,000 per month, and our current trend is around about minus 90,000 per hour. Per month it won't really dent it. We're already losing a lot of money, so why don't we just add a little bit more to that debt? I'll be using the non-electrified version of the train cargo terminal from Tygon's rail infrastructure pack. It's a big asset, but since this will be the only cargo terminal in the city, I think it'll be very much needed. So we'll place this in this space up here, and I'm going to use move it and increase the height of the building to align the height with our existing rail infrastructure, and then connect it up using the non-electrified version of the double train track. This does present us with some odd train tracks through here, so we'll need to optimize that. I think I'll mostly bring it to the ground, but I do want to bring a road underneath this section, so we'll keep a part of this bridge. Okay, so we've got the rail in. It was a little bit difficult in sections to make sure that we had plenty of space near some of these assets, so we did need to extend this retaining wall a little bit further than I'd like. And also I softened this curve because it was a little bit awkward. And then here we had to cut into the hill, so we've got the cut and fill feature. We do have this little power line that we had to be careful to work around. This one takes you up to the windmills, and hence the name of the area, which is called Solar Hills, because when we upgraded these to include solar panels, we also put in this industrial area. And then this comes along here, and yeah, these textures are a little bit rough. It's quite steep, but I think I might bring a road that runs alongside it and then comes through this little underpass here, and then that'll serve the back of the cargo terminal. And I've got a specific kind of way of routing traffic around these terminals. I've built a few of these in previous cities, and there's, especially for left-hand traffic, there's a particular way that you need to move traffic through here. So I'll go ahead and implement that now. Alright, so this is the basic configuration that I like to use for my cargo terminals, and this is very likely to be different if you're working in a right-hand driving city. Whereas we're using left-hand driving, we need to consider where the entrances and exits are. And I think the entrances and exits are pretty similar. regardless of what side of the road you drive on. But the way that the traffic flows out is very different. So we'll have a look at this van coming in here, and we're setting up the main entrance to be this one down on the left side. Then they typically do drive along the front of the asset here, and then they enter the warehouse. And then as they're unloading, they take a little bit of time, and then eventually we'll see them pop out the other side here, which we can just take a look at now. And then they'll drive through the internal roads, and then typically they use one of the other access points as the exit, and then we can allow them to kind of come back onto the road. And they do choose different roads or different exits. So if you've got a lot of vehicles coming through here, it looks like I just missed one, so I'll have to place a road there. It does give you much better permeability and a lot better movement. But I do highly recommend having a couple of lanes heading into the entrance, because that's usually where the bottleneck is. Sometimes they can use the entrance at the end of the car park here, but typically they all want to use this one down here. So if you have 2 or 3 lanes running into it, they can all queue up and stack and slowly filter their way through. And you might be thinking, what about service vehicles? So if we take a look at this taxi here, they don't typically have that much of an issue coming in, because they can also use the internal roads, and they do typically use the one at the far end here. And then they'll drive through the asset and exit, very similar to the trucks and lorries. And because we're using left-hand drive in this city, just think of the asset as a giant road. So you want the cars entering the depot on the same side that they'll drive. So they come in on the right side, and then they drive out on the left side. And we don't get any awkward crossovers, because as they come back into the main road network, they'll continue to drive on the correct side of the road, whichever you're playing in. For this episode, I want to take extra care and add as much detail as possible, while also respecting the original asset itself. Cargo terminals are so easy just to place down and forget about, but they do play an important role in your city, especially for delivering goods to commercial and allowing industry to sell products. And we're not going to simply detail the asset itself, we're going to expand into the entire area, and we're also going to try some new mods too. One mod that I've downloaded recently and I've been playing with is the Right Everywhere mod. This mod allows you to customize lots of different things, but my first foray into the mod is creating some custom signage, which I'll walk you through in a second. And there we go, we got our custom sign in place with the directional arrows included. And if you're using a UK highway font, these arrows are included in the font itself. So you don't need to import your own images. However, if you wanted to include your own icons or imagery, the Right Anywhere mod allows you to do that. The possibilities are pretty endless. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how we can use this in the city. And I'll share all the information that I've got in the description, as well as some of the resources that I use to bring the fonts and signs into my game. I've ended up using these little chirper bins as a little bit of a crash barrier. We've got the road coming down. I've got it connected up to this roundabout here, and there's a few roads connecting to this highway road, and I'm not too worried about adding any lights. We don't have that much traffic. And we've got the roundabout down here to kind of handle the bulk of the traffic through here. But we're not really seeing any trucks or lorries coming through here yet, because we don't have a cargo rail line connected up. So let's move the one that we've got at the harbour over to our new depot, or a new terminal. So let's have a look. We need to find the island freight. So we'll view details, and it's that yellow one there. So let's go to the route tool and pick that up, and then we'll drop that over here, and that should work. So that follows all the way around here, takes a pretty sharp turn down, and then we would prefer it to go up here. I'm suspecting we've got some waypoints somewhere that we need to remove. Yes, there's one. Yeah, I think that's working now. Yeah, so that cuts across the Newbridge estate, heads up onto our coastal line that goes all the way down to the port in the distance. It's not the fastest route, and we do want to eventually extend this cargo rail line through River Hill, through the valley, a little bit more direct, straight down to the cargo harbour, and then it won't need to share with the passenger rail line that's going through here. And we can't use this one coming through the middle because that's our high-speed passenger line. But yeah, that looks good. And now we can turn the cargo harbour off, and we can also delete these shipping routes as well, or turn them off at least, because we don't need them. Now I'm curious, will this empty out now that it's turned off out of service? Because we are currently storing around about 4,500 tons of material, and it would be such a shame to see that go to waste. So we'll leave the asset in place for now and come back to it at a future stage and see what we can do, and see if any of these materials have moved or not. Okay, so I kind of fell down a little rabbit hole when I was detailing, and we're not quite done yet, but you can see that I've gone ahead and fully customized this train station any way I could, including this custom color palette that we've got going through here with these beautiful, bright, colorful containers that almost look like little packets of sweets on the landscape, and you can see our train has got a full load. I'm quite surprised to see that. 445 tons heading out to the main cargo hub on the other side of the map. And what time is it? 2 o'clock in the morning. So I have actually set this route to run at night only, since it is still sharing tracks with our passenger train, and our passenger train vehicle numbers do change through the day using the smarter transportation mod. So during the night, when there's less demand, there'll be less passenger trains on the track, and that's when the freight train can go out. Whereas if we had this running during the day, it might slow down the passenger trains and also make the cargo even slower. And I think if your cargo is delivered slowly, it can actually increase the cost of the product, and people might choose, or businesses might choose, not to buy the product from the cargo depot. I'm not entirely sure if that's how it works, but it's an interesting concept and something that we can kind of either role play in Sunny Isle, or maybe it's a part of the game, who knows. Anyway, let me give you a quick tour of some of the details that I've put in. So most recently we've got the piers and quays patch, and with that we kind of got a little bit of a glimpse of what's coming in the bridges and ports DLC coming out later this year. So a whole load of props kind of sneaked into this patch without anybody really noticing. We've got these little camera portals. So these are for scanning cargo trucks. There's also a train variant of this as they come into the cargo area, the freight area. And with that, we also got these little border control booths along with the roof props. So really, really cool assets, as well as a load of these traffic dividers, which are super colourful. You can colour these as well. There's lots of options that you can play with the recolor mod. And I've put together a little bit of a toll road area, a freight toll as you're coming in. And I've just noticed that I've spelt freight wrong. There we go. And yeah, using a little bit of road builder to create these divider roads as you come in, dropping the speed down to 10 or 20, I can't remember now. And then the reason why we've got this road here is so that we can add a stop section or a stop sign, and vehicles will stop. They'll have their vehicle, their license checked, and then they can come straight through. And then yeah, I've got it all connected up so it's heading straight into the depot. I spoke earlier about the flow of this, and they'll work their way through and come out the other side. And then down here I added these little light boxes, which I'd like to imagine, so this is a far away range light, but I'd like to imagine maybe they would have a matrix display, maybe with like a green arrow or a red cross to tell you if the lane is open or closed. And then the last prop, which also came with the latest patch, is this height clearance bar, which I think is fantastic. Nice little addition to the game, along with our little chirper barrels. And yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with the results so far. This is probably the best cargo hub that I've ever created. And we're not finished there, because I do want to add a warehouse at the back here. But instead of actually expanding the storage capacity of the freight station, because I never find that it really fills up, so there's no need to add the upgrade, I'm going to use a static ploppable, and then we're going to embed some industry service cubes into the building and just generate a few more jobs. And then since we've had to purchase this tile, I'm also going to fill these areas with some farms so that we're making as best use of our land as possible. Okay, here we've got the extension to the cargo terminal, which I think looks pretty neat actually. I did go a little bit ham with the line tool, but I think with a little bit of careful selection, removing a few of the extra assets here and there, it does kind of look natural, and you do see these piles organized in places like this, especially anywhere where there's freight, where they need to kind of keep stock of everything. And we do have a few messy sections here, but yeah, let me just give you a quick overview of the area. So we built out this large concrete pad. I'm using some of generic Lemon's new concrete surfaces. Well, they're not super new, but they've been on PDX mods for a few weeks, and I think they're really good. We've got this nice texture in here, and they're not too different from the vanilla textures, which I absolutely adore, because I don't want to have anything that's going to contrast with the base game. And yeah, making use of some of these new props that came with the last patch, these tanks, as well as plopping down a couple of industrial assets. And inside each one of these we have industrial businesses. These are a part of StarQ's zoning blocks, which we could actually upgrade if we wanted to, with parking spots or a garage. So lots of extra things that we could do, and each of these will have employees as well. So they've got 14 employees, they've got 13, and it creates a bit more life around here. And I have provided some staff car parking over here. I know I could have plopped down a vanilla car park, but I wanted something that fit this space specifically. So it wasn't too difficult using some of the invisible parking roads, some of Dome's parking roads, and bringing it all together. Unfortunately, I'm not really seeing anyone using it at the moment, but I think most people are using the parking facilities that come with the cargo terminal itself. But overall, it's looking really good. I continued the color palette through here with those oranges and blues, using some of these container decals that again came with the latest patch in preparation for the Bridges and Ports DLC. And yeah, I really like it. Again, more of these industrial assets hidden in here, just to give the whole place a little bit of life. And what I also adore is the night view. So I've gone through and I've added lights through here. We've got a mix of this orange lighting along the street, some of these larger industrial spotlights as you come through here. I even managed to put down some spotlights on these loading bays, because you'd imagine they'd be quite busy, especially since we're only really sorting out cargo here at night. So we need to make sure that we've got lots of safe working conditions. A little bit darker at the back here, you know, there's not that much activity going on. I did add a little chimney just to represent maybe some condensation, whether they've got some boilers or heating elements in there, as well as throwing down a whole bunch of these aircon units. So these are completely separate, because you'd imagine there could be some refrigeration units in there. But yeah, I do really like the night, because look at the texture on that roof. You just don't see that during the day. It looks great. And I could have gone even further if I wanted to. You can see I've used a couple of stains and decals, which I like to use very sparingly in areas that are a little bit inconspicuous, but overall I think it adds to the overall picture. I'm sure I could have put some more line work in, or some more car parking spots, or litter, lots and lots of detail, but at the end of the day, I don't want this new build to outshine what we've got over here. So I think it's quite harmonious and it fits together, and it's not just a big square on the map. It's custom created for the shape of land that we've got here, and I'm pretty happy with the result overall. For the farm road, I'm joining this up to an existing intersection and bringing it up through the centre of the valley. But before we start placing farms, I want to think about water management. With this much concrete and asphalt, and with the site sitting right up against the hills, we're going to get quite a lot of runoff. So we'll funnel that through a man-made channel, a ditch running alongside the main road, then cutting under it and eventually out to sea. I'm using Elgando's stream net lanes for the shape, and Sully's riverbed textures with a few boulders to help lend it into the landscape. Now, with the farms in place, let's take a look at the small business park beside the cargo terminal. It's sitting on valuable land, so I'm going to increase the density here and make better use of the space. At this point, the new tile is more or less fully developed, and with a bit of luck, it'll start contributing positively to the city's finances. I'm also making a few adjustments to taxes and services. These were changed during a different version of the game, and the simulation's slightly different now, so I'm setting a base rate that we can leave running for a while, and then I'll check back once it's had time to settle. And with those tweaks in place, it looks like we're back in the green again. Oh, looks like we've got some crime happening at the distribution centre. It doesn't surprise me, to be honest, some of the shenanigans that they get up to. Anyway, it's brilliant seeing that this freight toll is being used quite well now. We've got all the vehicles coming in, and overall the area is functional. I do keep getting this strange little surface texture glitch, and the only way I figured out to fix it is just to create a new node. And that seems to sort it all out. But yeah, the area is fully detailed, fully constructed, and we're making use of all the available land now. You can see where the edge of the city is, where we've not been able to purchase any more tiles, but I'm quite happy with that harsh edge. It allows us to create something a little bit more interesting in the future, perhaps, when we do unlock it. And I did end up moving the country road just to go down the center of the valley instead, and then we'll have to wind it back up and connect it up to that hill road at some point. But again, we don't really own these tiles yet, so we're right up on the edge, making use of all the space available. Place down a few industrial buildings here, and a little car park, which I think I may have forgotten to add the invisible road, so we'll just quickly add that in here. There we go. So hopefully we get a few cars parking there. Again, not too heavy on the details. I don't mind there being a chimney. I'm not one to oppose chimneys as long as there's just not too many of them. And I do like the fact that you see so many more vehicles out on these specialized industries now. I've noticed that since the last patch. Even in the coal mining area, you get a lot more activity. I ended up removing all the trees around the facility. I really wanted to make this bluff a little bit more pronounced to show that the area is man-made. I did add a little bit of a texture to make the grass look slightly drier, but it's not very visible. And yeah, I couldn't really resist. I did end up going through this area again and adding even more detail, a little bit of line work just to delineate where the roads are. Added this little van picking up some boxes, and look, we've got trucks coming in and using the actual industries that are built into this build today. I love it. Place down a little vending machine, little break area there, and it looks really good. It's a shame we don't have any cars parked in the car park yet, but this one over here is filling up, so perhaps once this one is at capacity, people will start to move over there. But I'm absolutely loving seeing all this life through here. And yes, we constructed this new canal or ditch, more like, which I absolutely adore. I like the fact that this is reflective in the sun, so it can be a little bit blinding depending on the angle, but if you come at it from the opposite way, it's much more blue in color. And then we added all the little details, nothing too over the top, as most of it is pretty hidden by the trees. Maybe I've gone a little bit overboard on the trees, but typically these areas do have a lot of foliage. And I did try out a few different drainage solutions. So you saw in the last section that I used a prop version of the water waste pipe, and then here I'm using a couple of these Crypto Gamer concrete blocks with the decals. And then over here, if we can spot it through the foliage, I'm using just a simple pipe with the decal on. There you go, you can just about see it. And yeah, I think that looks good. Up close, yeah, they can look a little bit sketchy, but for the most part, we won't really be seeing this very often this close. It's just, it creates a little bit more texture in the environment. And since we mostly focus on the urban part of city building, it's quite nice having an easy way of developing these rural areas as well. And yeah, the mouth of this ditch this stream isn't the most ideal, but I think when we come to detailing this coastline, we can pay a little bit more attention to that, give us something to do in the future. And As the city grows and develops and becomes more paved and more built up, they might be the only green parts of the city left in this area once it starts to be fully developed. And looking at this industrial area, I really do like this version of it now. Before, we just had a lot of trees, a lot of foliage, a lot of wasted space, and although it looks super dense, these small industrial areas, from what I've seen on Google Maps, do tend to be full of lots of little buildings, props, and just full of life. You know, I actually don't mind the vanilla industrial assets, especially when you get a mix of levels. The level 5s are really, really nice. And in more modern areas where we can actually take our time to build larger warehouses, we can do stuff like this with the industrial distribution center and make it feel a little bit more special. But in these smaller business areas, I don't mind it being a little bit more chaotic. And on top of what we did in the stream, which I'll share shortly, and at least we're not losing as much money as we were before. So hopefully over the next few episodes, we'll see the positive trend continue. And let me just show you what we did on stream and off camera. So I added a Sunny decal onto the top of the harbour roof so you can see it as you're flying in. We also spent some time working on the traffic lights on this bridge here. We're using the advanced split phasing, and for the most part it's working really well. We're not getting any backups now. Further down the road, we spent some time just adding a lot more foliage on here, removing the car park, removing the street side parking. This is a main road through the area, so we don't want any disruptions. In this section where we weren't able to use the road upgrade tools, we added our own foliage using some of these planters, some of these smaller palm trees, and just providing a whole lot more shade through here, since this is a major thoroughfare, not just for vehicles but for pedestrians and public transport. And then at the end here, this is where we spent a long time just detailing, using some new surfaces, some new textures, creating this little doggy daycare center, which, if you remember previously, this was just a through road and it was causing disruption on this node at the top here. So once we disconnected it, it was no longer necessary, and we can make something unique and special. And with that, we created this custom commercial asset, which is just made up of a few of the vanilla assets. And lastly, we upgraded the pier in Clipstrand to use the new vanilla network asset. Although we did retain this tower at the end, I just feel like it's so iconic to the area, I don't necessarily want to remove it. But now that we've got the network pier out here, we're seeing people using it. It's a destination. It's giving people a reason to come over the train tracks, whereas previously it was fairly quiet and the market is still super, super quiet. But happy to see that it's working, and this train station is super, super busy per usual. We might even have to have a look at upgrading the trains once again. And that wraps up today's episode, as we take a final look at the new cargo terminal and the logistics district around it. What started as a simple need to reroute freight turned into a much bigger project, and maybe I did go a little bit overboard. But instead of just dropping the asset into place, we took the time to design something that fits the landscape, works with the city's infrastructure, and feels grounded in how freight might realistically operate. It was a major investment, and yes, we lost quite a lot of money along the way, but by closing the old port, we're now saving on running costs and freeing up valuable land much closer to the city centre. Plus, we've stopped loud freight trains and lorries rumbling through residential streets and historic neighbourhoods, which is a win in itself. So the question now is, what do you do with that freed up space? Would you keep the existing rail line and adapt it for commuter use, or tear it out and build something completely new? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you back here in sunny Isle. Goodbye.